Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4600 and 4067. Today's date is May 23, 2026. It's been almost like a morning at 7:54 a.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. All right, question is, how do I follow the law? Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build a app called My Artifact. What exactly is this application and why am I kind of like what exactly is this application and why does kind of like this question relate with this application? Okay. When you write a diary, you cannot able to be write the diary the way that you want it to. The reason is that your thinking speed is much more faster than your writing speed. Writing really required a lot of constraint. You need a pen, you need a paper, you need a convenient, and because of all those things, it very difficult to match our thoughts with the yeah. So that's why we cannot able to print our thoughts uh, the way that we should supposed to be wanted to because of the writing speed. But what if I'm gonna say that instead of writing a diary, what if we could record a diary, like audio record a diary? And I call this audio recording diary, I call this artifact. The stuff that you are kind of like listening right now, this is my artifact. My artifact episode number 4067. I am doing this thing for past 11 years. I am doing this thing every single day. Because of this, writing a diary or recording a diary or recording an artifact is a self-reflection process. You actually connect with yourself more. The amount of value that I get from artifact is just like enormous. And I wanted to share this value to the people. I wanted to share that people should supposed to be experience the value that how does self-reflection process actually happen, how does kind of like a particular person connect with themselves. So how do I supposed to share this value, how do I supposed to share this technicality to kind of like a things and that so that people should supposed to be record their artifact by building an application. Okay, so my application means my artifact is a somewhat something like a YouTube platform. In a YouTube platform, you could upload your video, other people sees your video. Same thing, you upload your artifact, like you record your artifact, upload your artifact, other people listen your artifact. So this is a kind of like a application. There is a only one catch is that people will their identity is always hidden. Like their username, their identity is always been hidden. Like basically my real name is Saurav Authare, but my username or my artifact handle name would be Prozac 1943 or something else, so that I would keep my kind of like a completely hidden from rest of the community. Okay, so this is kind of like a some app. Now right now I'm actually building this application. Now before I wanted to build this application, I wanted to understand all the possible consequences. What might goes wrong, what if kind of like a things went south and kind of like a something that key stuff went. So I wanted to aware of all the possible consequences that might goes wrong. So I went to chat gpt, I tell my idea, I suggest them to suggest me at least like a hundreds of all the possible consequences that might gonna happen and how do I supposed to overcome with that. ChatGPT kind of like a suggest me hundreds of question. This is one of those question. By the way, the question actually in the mobile phone, but while recording I cannot do this thing. That's why I wrote the question in the book. Okay. So get it? Now regarding about the question says that how do I supposed to be follow the law? Okay, what is exactly is this question? Well, let me kind of like simply tell you. When I build this application, right now I'm actually building, and basically it's this thing. There is no kind of like a something application are actually exist who are kind of like a serving the similar thing. not have any kind of like stuff. Sorry, you are kind of like seeing. Okay. Um. All right. So what I was kind of like saying, I was saying that he like there is in the market there is no kind of like application actually exists like that. Okay. And basically is this thing that I think that it would have higher chances that it went global, but I'm not really sure about that. Okay, yeah, like basically I was thinking that it went global, but yeah. Okay, so what I was kind of like saying that if this application went to the global, means like every person on the planet is kind of like a recording artifact. Not every person, but yeah, like probably kind of like a somebody, I don't know, but person from different kind of like a some countries and things, they are kind of like a recording artifact, because yeah, it does add value in the people life. So if the people who are kind of like a somebody that key recording artifact from different culture, different countries and things and that. So the problem is that how do I supposed to be follow the law? Okay, what is exactly law and what exactly is this thing? Okay, so basically is this thing that every country has a different law according to the different criminal activity. Let me tell you, in India, if you rape somebody and you are kind of like a somebody, like you rape somebody, so what kind of like a somebody criminal charges that you get? So if you rape somebody, then probably what will gonna happen that Indian government will kind of like a somebody give you a jail for at least like a very long year, probably kind of like a 20-25 year or maybe 30 year, more than that. Okay, because it's a very criminal offense, things like that and that. Okay, but they do not kill you. Until if you kind of like did something very harmful, like a rape with something, like you killed that particular woman and things and that. So in that situation, things might get even worse. But still, okay. So I'm talking about in India. Now, if you went to UAE, UAE has a very strict law. If you did similar activity over there, probably they will kind of like a somebody killed you. They will not gonna kind of like a give you the prison straight, like they're not gonna give you prison and things, and they will kind of like literally just kill you. Okay, yeah. If you went to US, they have kind of like different laws. Similar criminal activity, they have kind of like a different laws. Same with the Europe. Europe have a kind of like a different country. They have kind of like a different laws. Okay, Africa, Europe, Asia, Southeast Asia. They have kind of like a different laws regarding about the different criminal activity and things and that and that. Okay. So, okay, are you kind of like doing any criminal activity to building this application? Well, I do not, like I'm not kind of like doing any criminal activity, but user they might. Okay, okay, what is that? Okay, so like this is a kind of like a platform where people are kind of like somebody sharing their thoughts and things and that and that. Now it's anonymous, and people are kind of utilizing for wrong purposes, like death threat, violence, lot of things. Okay, yeah. And in that situation, who is responsible for that? Let's just say a particular person kind of like a record artifact regarding about that he says that I will gonna kill the president of United States. So in that situation, what do I supposed to do? Okay, yeah. Now basically, okay, some people are kind of like saying this thing at the spur of the moment, or maybe kind of like heat of the moment, or maybe kind of like somebody just for as a fun. Is it okay? Fine. Okay, like basically is this thing that we all do that thing. It's not like that kind of like some stuff. But let's just say a particular person really genuinely wanted to kill that particular person, like yeah. So in that situation, what do I supposed to be do? What do I supposed to take that and that? Like it's not really my responsibility to save the president of United States. No, definitely not. They have their own system to kind of like save their president. It's like that, na? Basically is this thing that if like my platform is not meant to be such a platform where people are kind of like somebody sharing those details or kind of like telling such a thing that I might gonna kill this particular person or that or that or that or that.
It is so much windy.
Are you hearing na? This is kind of like so much wind over here. Okay, why this kind of like so much wind over here? It's because of the temperature difference. Okay, low pressure and high pressure because it's very hot. Okay, and because of the hot weather, kind of like get lighter, so we kind of like will go and then kind of like a cool air kind of like get inside. So there is a kind of like a temperature and this. Yeah, so that's what just actually happened. And this actually happened. The higher wind is actually happened during the summer. Yeah, because summer is actually got heated a lot, so that's why. Whatever. So basically it's this thing that what I'm saying is that my platform is not meant to be for such a thing that people are kind of like a sharing such a kind of like a criminal offense thing and that. Okay. So in that particular situation, if such thing happen, that will gonna happen, definitely will gonna happen. So in that particular process, how do I supposed to be kind of like making sure that I will not gonna break any country's law. Also, I will not gonna break I will gonna kind of like assembly. The I will kind of like assembly is this thing that um, like a like basically block those kind of like a people or kind of like a not to do record or things and that. So in that situation things. Okay, so let me there is a kind of like a one violence that my application will gonna do. Okay, and what is that violence? Okay, free speech. Okay, because my artifact is sharing thoughts and it's a free speech. Okay, a freedom. People can share their thoughts and things and that. Now the laws of free speech are very much different. Okay, yeah, in India, in every part of the world, every country has a different laws regarding about the free speech. Okay, yeah. Okay, what exactly is this thing? Why does kind of like every country does not really kind of like give the free speeches? What is exactly the reason for that? The reason is that people are actually utilize free speech for very wrong purposes. But what exactly they will kind of like say something that might gonna affect the government? Well, they say a lot. Okay, let me kind of like tell you something. Let's just say a government have an election. Let's just say India has an election, Lok Sabha election. In the Lok Sabha election, the kind of like a prime minister of India will kind of like assembly elected. So in that situation, every kind of like elected people every kind of like a person who kind of like a run for the election camp. Okay, they will try to make sure that their image is a very much essential. Now, what's the image? Okay, let's just say I wanted to become the prime minister of India. Now, how do I become the prime minister of India? I have to run the election. One thing. Another thing. After I run the election, how do I supposed to be get elected? By vote. Okay, yeah. Okay. So basically, my chances that I should supposed to be get more and more votes. Now, votes actually come from the people. Okay, yeah. So I have to be convince people that vote for me, right? I have to be convince people that vote for me. Why does people will kind of like convince you? Why does people are kind of like convinced for vote for you? Why does that? So basically, is this thing they will not gonna get convinced. Okay, yeah, they need a practical evidence that you did something right or you will gonna do something right for the country and things like that and it depends on your background check, like what did you do in the background and things like that. There's a lot of background check and things like that. Okay, so because of the background check, people are trying to make sure that their image should supposed to be, yeah. Let me kind of like give you example. Okay, yeah. A particular person who kind of like work in the NGO, plant almost like 1,000,000 trees on the country. They kind of like simply help a lot of poor people to kind of like things, they educate and things and all those good stuff. This is the background kind of like simply background personality. So because of this background personality, that particular person could kind of like say that ki, I did this thing in previous past, and that's why I am kind of like simply running for this election. That's why you have to vote me. Okay, so this is kind of like a things. Now let's just say another character who never really done that thing. He's a rich, by the way, but never really kind of like did something criminal offense. But he did something very wrong thing. He did that. He kind of like a he like a basically he fall in the corruption probably. Okay, yeah. So he was kind of like somebody fall into the corruption zone and things and that and that. So who will you vote? The particular person who did something right or particular person who did corruption? Obviously, the particular person who did something right, he actually kind of things and that and that. Okay. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki our election is actually based on what particular person did in their past. Okay, one thing. Okay, so let me tell you one thing. When the particular person did something really past, it is very essential that he did something right. No one knows that ki I will gonna run the election campaign for Prime Minister of India. No. So basically, today's action I might gonna do for just fun. Like let's just say is that ki I kind of like something is this thing that ki I like particular girl and I have affair. Even if I'm married, I have affair. Now basically stuff happened, kind of like things and that happened, and then I realized that but because of this affair, kind of like things are kind of like spread all over the media and things and that. Sorry about so much wind over here. Oh shit. There's so much. Oh boy. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like a so windy over here. Alright. Okay. So what was I kind of like saying? I was saying that ki like you did something wrong. Okay. Now because of you did something wrong, your image is already crippled by kind of like you did affair in the office and things and that and that. If you did something like that, then what exactly happened? That ki in the future, if you wanted to run the election, you might not able to run the election because your image has always been wrong. You are kind of like a literally affair. Or let's just say take an example is this thing, the first person who did all those things like he kind of like somebody help, he plant million trees, he kind of like a help poor and things and that, but he did something one thing, he has a kind of like office affair with someone random girl. So because of this thing too, it affects it on the election campaign, and it might because of this one tiny mistake that he did, he might not gonna win the election campaign. So the people who kind of like a somebody that ki stand for election campaign, they are highly essential that ki their image should supposed to be clean, and they are wanted to make sure that their image should supposed to be clean. So that's why they are always been focusing on that. Okay, now you understand this thing. Okay, if you run the election campaign, you need your image should supposed to be clean. Okay, now part number two is that let's just say is this thing, one particular person is a kind of like a really hate you are running the election campaign, and one particular person is kind of like a really hate you. regarding about whatever the kind of like a things, because every person has a hater, every person has that. And that particular person kind of like a did something very crazy. He kind of like a went into the YouTube platform and kind of like a say this particular person is a did something wrong, this particular person did something wrong, this particular person did this something wrong. Every video he was talking about that this particular person did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. No, because of like a basically if he is kind of like a doing by alone or kind of like a talking to the 10 or 20 people, it is okay. But YouTube is a social media platform, millions of people are kind of like a watching his video. Now if the millions of people are watching his video, then the millions of people are get influenced by this particular person, and the millions of people are get influenced by this particular person, the person who kind of like something the running the election campaign, who is kind of like a get frustrated by the particular person who criticizes, and because of this thing he might not win the election. Okay, he might not win the election. Okay, that particular person who kind of like a do the like basically false things and that he's like a defamation. Okay, like a he that particular person kind of like a defame this particular person, and that is completely wrong. Okay, yeah, if you are kind of like a defame another person, we have kind of like a legal laws that you cannot able to defame. You need a kind of like a valid kind of like a reason for that. If you are kind of like a somebody discriminating or kind of like a saying criticizing other people, you need a valid reason, literally valid reason. You cannot able to be kind of like a give the fake evidence and kind of like a say this thing that he this that and this that and this that. That is not. Okay. So it's a very much essential that he like let me tell you this. I'm talking about the Indian context point of perspective. This is a kind of like a defamation in kind of like something India, but every country has a kind of like a different thing. Let me tell you one thing: a social media platform is a kind of like something affect a lot. Like people are kind of like a went into the internet and they are kind of like whatever the information that they are consuming, they will become their opinion, and when they will become their opinion, it might gonna become kind of like a very different. They are kind of like always kind of like hearing about the our like this particular person is kind of like something wrong, we will not gonna vote that particular person. So that is a completely thing. So the election people who run the election campaign, they are really essential for their image. They were wanted to make sure their image is kind of like a first priority to kind of like a bit better. But that particular person kind of like a defame that particular thing, then this particular person have like the particular person who kind of like running the election, he will have authority to take the action. How does he take the action? Like he will talk to the YouTube and say this thing, block this account, delete this account, or things and that he will kind of defame. YouTube kind of like say this thing, okay, this particular person did something wrong, so basically we will deactivate or suspend or whatever it is. So this is a kind of like a simply way that it should supposed to be happen. Okay, yeah, like it's not really that no one kind of like stand up on the social media and kind of like say this particular person did something wrong, this particular person did something wrong, the defamation and things and that. You cannot able to do that thing. Okay, so that's why Indian government, or not just in like any government, they are kind of like focusing on that key. How should we supposed to be kind of like control the social media platform, specifically YouTube and Instagram, and these are kind of like a platform where there are millions of people are actually accessing their kind of like a platform, and opinion change from the particular person kind of like said this thing. Like a recent example is Dhruv Rathi. Dhruv Rathi is a YouTuber who kind of like somebody criticized the BJP and things like that. BJP is a kind of like India political party. Okay, and Dhruv Rathi is kind of like criticizing and that. Okay, now because of this thing, BJP is like, first of all, is a false accusation? No, it's not. Definitely not. So if your accusation is not false, legit true, then basically you are convinced, you are telling a truth, and you are kind of like doing the right thing. And that's meant for social media to kind of like be really awareness regarding about what kind of like a wrong actually happened. Okay, yeah. So basically Dhruv Rathi is right, but if particular person is kind of like do something stupid shit, he will kind of like defame that, and in that situation what they will gonna do? Government will gonna take to the YouTuber, the government will gonna went to the YouTube, they will gonna say block this account, and YouTube kind of like a block this account and things like that. So if such thing happened with the YouTube or Instagram platform, obviously it will gonna happen with me, because some people are kind of like do something crazy shit. It might gonna affect their economy, their political system and that, or religious sentiment and things like that. So in that situation, the government came to me. How do I supposed to be kind of like a block those account? Because I didn't have detail. Okay, yeah. So like I'm kind of like making the privacy. So how do I supposed to do that? Okay, so first of all is that first of all I am keeping the privacy. Okay, that is for sure. But basically in that situation actually happened, then in what do I supposed to do? Like how do I supposed to block such an account if I'm not really sure their identity and things and that and that. Okay, so first of all is that I am actually taking the two information from the user. First is a location, okay, yeah. Another is a time when the user record the artifact, where that artifact came from, location, and when it came from, time. Two different things, okay, yeah. But because of two things I cannot able to be kind of like a block such account or suspend such account. So in that situation I need another thing. And what is exactly another thing? Every user log in through Google account. Obviously I will have their username, sorry, I will have their email ID. So this is kind of like a third thing that I have. I didn't really know their real name, I have their email ID, okay, yeah. And another thing, I also have their kind of like a IP address, okay, yeah. Like I think that na ki, like right now I'm not really sure. I will have like email ID. Obviously I will gonna have this thing because every user log in through Google, so email ID I will have. So from that thing I will kind of like block their account and things and that. Why are you really required IP addresses? Okay, yeah. So the people who kind of like do something wrong, okay, yeah, or they wanted to do something wrong, they wanted to defame or whatever it is, okay, yeah, they will not gonna utilize one account. They will gonna utilize hundreds of accounts, hundreds of email ID, things like that and that. If I block one account, they will kind of like create another account and they will kind of like do the same thing. Okay, yeah. So in that situation, how do I supposed to do this thing? If I have this IP address, then probably I would have to be block their phone, things like that, so that kind of like somebody that they would not gonna share their artifact and things and that. But I think that na, I shouldn't supposed to be go that much further. Why is this thing that na, I'm actually focusing on the solving the problem before it even exists, before it even, like this is kind of like a thing. So okay, I have to make sure that like basically is this thing, why does kind of like those people are kind of like exist, why does those people are kind of like creating such a hate comment or hate kind of like things and that, why does kind of like they are saying this thing is because of that people are so lonely and people are wanting to talk and things and that and they need a kind of like some subject to things and that. What I'm saying is that na, basically my platform is a kind of like a creator such a way that kind of like enhance them, not to kind of like criticize them and things that one thing. Another thing is that I have a kind of like a very strict judgmental artifact. Like every artifact is actually judged by the Adam, every artifact is actually judged by all those things. I already mentioned regarding about how the artifact is actually judged and things like that. If I have this judgmental one, it would be kind of like a very higher chances for me to not to create such a kind of like a harassment thing or that or no artifact or things and that. But people can record, but they will not gonna recommend to the more and more people, because the artifact is kind of like let down those artifacts or not recommend those artifacts to the more and more people, so that kind of like somebody things will not gonna kind of like accelerate attachment further, and I don't have to kind of like block their ID, or I don't have to kind of like go their kind of like IP address and things like that. I don't want that thing. I don't want to block their account as well as maybe I will gonna suspend. Block is a kind of like a very expensive thing, because let me tell you one thing na, it's your artifact, okay, yeah. An artifact is a kind of like a thing, a treasure. When you record, you realize that how much really important stuff that you recorded, and I have to preserve this thing, because let me tell you one thing, when I record the artifact, I want to make sure that my artifact should supposed to be preserved. That's why I uploaded my artifact on YouTube platform, because the storage that I have is got corrupted and things and that, so that's why I uploaded on my platform. That's why I uploaded my artifact on YouTube platform, okay, because basically my data is very much essential for me, okay. So basically deleting or kind of like deleting their data or kind of like somebody that block their user, it's not really right. I might gonna suspend, but this is kind of like a very crucial. I don't want to go into that thing. Like if I went to go into that thing, then I have multiple things. Then I have to block the account and this what and that what. Then I will track the email ID. I will track the kind of like IP address and kind of like figure out where it come from and the find and things and that. Just a lot of things. I don't want to go there. I might have kind of like a separate kind of like a department who handle that particular thing to make sure my community will not gonna get spoiled and things like that and that. My main purpose is that to not to start at the beginning should supposed to make sure that ki soft better kind of like somebody is thing that ki I would supposed to be controlled from the beginning, so that this situation never will gonna happen. I am focusing on solving the problem before it even exists. So that's why I'm actually asking those questions, so that I would be aware of that ki what kind of like a problem that I'm gonna face. So yeah. So regarding about the how do I supposed to be follow the kind of like a every government laws and things and that, well, basically is this thing like I'm not gonna go against the government. Definitely not. Government asks me to do something, I will gonna do that. Okay, I will gonna do that. But I have to be also make sure that key free speech is also really essential. I also make sure that people should supposed to talk more and things like that. If my make my community as much as better it possible, it's really essential for me to convince government that key my community is really right. It kind of like really help you to the people to kind of like make better and things like that. Artifact adds so much amount of value inside of me. That's why I'm became this much particular person. So basically, I wanted to share this value to the other people too. And it's not really wrong, by the way. It's a kind of like completely right thing. And if I'm kind of like making sure my artifact community and artifact handle or artifact everything is as much as better as possible, it's very easy for me to convincing other government that my platform is really good. There is no kind of like a illegal activity actually happening. Okay, yeah. But if such thing happen, whatever the government tell me that it block this thing, block that account, in that situation I will gonna do this. I will not gonna go against the government, but I will also make sure that authenticity. I will also make sure that I will like basically artifact will not gonna share the detail with the artifact government. I don't know what would I supposed to do at the moment, because right now I'm actually a bit more focusing on make sure my platform is as much as better as things and that. That's not a kind of like a thing. Like basically fixing the problem later is not my mentality. But I'm making sure that problem is solved at the beginning. And yeah, but if something actually happened to kind of like a some sort of situation that I have to be kind of like a report to the government, or maybe government will kind of like tell me do this, do that. So in that situation, I have to be doing this thing. Okay, because I am actually serving their my services to their country, and the country's official kind of like a tell me do not do this thing, then I have to be do that. I have to be follow this thing. But still, yeah. First of all, I'm kind of like making sure that problem solved in the beginning, not yeah. So this is how I might follow the government laws. I didn't really give the proper answer because I didn't really know how do I supposed to be handle that situation when it comes. Okay, because the yeah, I think that's the problem thing. So kind of like giving the answer at the moment is not really right. I am making sure my platform is as much as better as possible. I'm making sure my user will kind of like record better artifact and things like that. I will design my application in such a way that like that, not to kind of like people share the kind of dirty thoughts and things like that. But they will.